The desert wind carried whispers of a ghost, a man they said was buried 6 feet under in the badlands of Rattlesnake Ridge. But ghosts don't bleed, and this man had vengeance burning in his veins hotter than the Arizona sun. His name was Colt Maddox, once the fastest gun in 3 territories, a rancher with a beautiful wife and a ranch that stretched as far as the eye could see. But that was before the night the Blackwood Gang rode in with torches and lead, leaving nothing but ash and screams in their wake. They took everything, his home, his family, his very soul, and left him for dead in a shallow grave. But death couldn't hold Colt Maddox. He clawed his way out of that grave with broken fingers and a shattered heart, emerging into a world that had already forgotten him. For 2 long years, he wandered the territories like a shadow, learning patience, honing his skills, and tracking every member of the gang that destroyed his life. 7 men. 7 targets. 7 bullets with names carved into the casings. Now he's back, riding into the town of Redemption Creek where it all began, his Colt .45 heavy on his hip and a list of names folded in his pocket. The Blackwood Gang thought they'd buried their sins along with Colt Maddox. They were wrong. The reckoning is coming, and it rides on a pale horse with eyes as cold as winter. Subscribe to follow Colt's journey of revenge. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. The town of Redemption Creek hadn't changed much in 2 years. Same dusty streets. Same weathered saloon with its crooked sign creaking in the wind. Same people going about their lives, pretending they didn't remember the screams that echoed from the Maddox ranch that blood-soaked night. Colt rode in at dusk, when the shadows grew long and the honest folk retreated indoors. His horse, a steel-gray stallion he'd won in a poker game in Santa Fe, moved silent as smoke through the empty streets. He kept his hat pulled low, covering the scar that now ran from his left temple to his jaw, a permanent reminder of the shovel that had cracked his skull before they buried him. The livery stable stood at the edge of town, run by old Jacob Miller, a man whose loyalty couldn't be bought but could be earned. Jacob had been the only one to visit Colt's ranch after the massacre, the only one brave enough to bury the bodies properly. He deserved the truth. Colt dismounted and led his horse inside. The old man looked up from mucking a stall, his rheumy eyes squinting in the dim light. Recognition came slowly, then all at once. "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph," Jacob whispered, his pitchfork clattering to the ground. "You're supposed to be dead." "I was," Colt said simply, his voice rougher than it used to be, scarred like the rest of him. "Now I'm not." Jacob's weathered hands trembled as he approached, reaching out as if to confirm Colt was flesh and blood, not some desert mirage. "Boy, what happened to you?" "They left me in a grave, Jacob. Left me to rot. But the earth didn't want me yet." Colt's eyes, once warm and full of life, were now flat and cold as river stones. "I need to know who's still in town." "The Blackwood Gang." "Give me names." The old man's face paled. "Colt, you can't. They're dangerous. Victor Blackwood practically runs this town now. He's got the sheriff in his pocket, half the council too. He owns the bank, the saloon, the general store. You go after him, you'll be going after the whole damn town." "I didn't come back to run a ranch, Jacob." Colt's hand drifted to the Colt at his hip, fingers brushing the worn grip with an intimate familiarity. "I came back to collect a debt. 7 men. 7 lives. Starting with the ones stupid enough to stick around." Jacob swallowed hard, then nodded slowly. 3 of them are still here. Victor, of course. His brother Silas works as the deputy. And Jesse Kane, the one who set the fires, he tends bar at the Silver Dollar. Colt's jaw tightened. Jesse Kane. The man who'd laughed while Colt's world burned. "Good," he said quietly. "That's where I'll start." Before Colt Maddox became a ghost, he was a legend. They used to tell stories about him around campfires and in saloons from Texas to California. The fastest draw in the West, they said. A man who could put 6 bullets through a silver dollar at 50 paces. A gunfighter who'd faced down the notorious Dalton brothers in Tombstone and walked away without a scratch while they bled out in the dirt. But that was young Colt, hungry for glory and respect. That Colt had hung up his gun 7 years ago when he met Sarah Bennett, a schoolteacher with honey-colored hair and a smile that made him believe in redemption. She'd made him promise to leave the violence behind, to build something instead of destroy. And he had. He'd traded his reputation for a ranch, his Colt for a plow, his legacy for love. For 7 beautiful years, Cole Maddox was just a rancher. He built a home with his own hands, raised cattle, helped neighbors, and attended church on Sundays. He and Sarah had a daughter, little Emma, just 5 years old, with her mother's smile and her father's stubborn spirit. Life was simple. Life was good. But the past has teeth, and it always finds a way to bite. Victor Blackwood had recognized Cole one day in town, remembered the gunfighter from the old days. He'd approached Cole with a proposition: join the gang, use his skills to help them rob banks and trains. The Blackwood Gang was expanding, Victor said, and they needed a man with Cole's talents. Cole had refused. Politely at first, then firmly when Victor persisted. "I'm not that man anymore," Cole had said, his hand on Sarah's shoulder as they stood outside the general store. "Find someone else." Victor's smile had been cold as a snake's. "There is no one else like you, Maddox. Think about my offer. A man with a family needs money. Needs protection." The threat was clear, but Cole hadn't believed Victor would actually do it. The Blackwood Gang robbed banks and stagecoaches. They weren't murderers. Or so he'd thought. 3 weeks later, they came in the night. 7 riders with torches and guns. Cole had fought like a demon, killed 2 of them before a bullet took him in the shoulder. He'd watched helplessly, bleeding in the dirt, as Jesse Kane threw the first torch onto his porch. Watched as the flames consumed everything. Heard Sarah's screams. Heard Emma crying for her daddy. Then Silas Blackwood had stood over him with a shovel, grinning. "Victor sends his regards." The shovel had come down. Darkness had swallowed everything. When Cole clawed his way out of that grave 2 days later, delirious with pain and grief, the legend was reborn. But this time, it wasn't about glory or respect. It was about something much simpler, much purer. Justice. Cold, final, and absolute. The ghost of Cole Maddox had risen, and hell was coming with him. Cole spent his first night back in Redemption Creek in the hayloft above Jacob's stable, his Colt disassembled and spread before him in the lamplight. He cleaned each piece with methodical precision, the ritual as familiar as breathing. Oil on the cylinder. Polish on the barrel. Check the action, smooth as silk. This gun had been his companion for 15 years. It had saved his life more times than he could count. Now it would help him take 7 others. At dawn, he descended into town, keeping to the alleys and shadows. Redemption Creek was waking up, shopkeepers opening their doors, women heading to the market, children running to school. Normal life, as if the world hadn't ended 2 years ago just 5 miles outside town. The Silver Dollar Saloon didn't open until noon, but Cole knew Jesse Kane would be there early, preparing for the day. He'd watched the routine from across the street, patient as a rattlesnake in the sun. Jesse was a creature of habit, arrived at 10, swept the floors, stocked the bottles, always alone for those first 2 hours. Perfect. Cole pushed through the batwing doors at precisely 10:15. The saloon was dim and empty, smelling of stale whiskey and tobacco. Jesse stood behind the bar, his back turned, humming a tuneless melody as he arranged glasses on the shelf. "We're closed," Jesse called out without turning. "Come back at noon." "I'm not here for a drink," Cole said quietly. Something in his voice made Jesse freeze. Slowly, the bartender turned, his ruddy face going pale as he recognized the ghost standing in his saloon. The glasses in his hands slipped, shattering on the floor. "No," Jesse whispered. "You're dead. I saw Silas bury you." "Shallow grave," Cole said, stepping forward. "You should have dug deeper." Jesse's hand darted toward the shotgun beneath the bar, but Cole was faster. His Colt cleared leather in a blur, the hammer clicking back with a sound like breaking bones. "Don't," Cole warned. "I want you to know why this is happening." Jesse's hand stopped, trembling in mid-air. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Look, Cole, it wasn't personal. Victor gave the orders. We were just following orders." Cole's laugh was bitter as ash. "You threw the first torch, Jesse. I watched you. You were smiling." "Please," Jesse's voice cracked. "I got a wife now. A baby coming. Please, Cole, I'm begging you." "Did Sarah beg?" Cole's finger tightened on the trigger. "Did Emma?" The gunshot echoed through the empty saloon like thunder. Jesse Kane crumpled behind the bar, a red stain spreading across his chest. He gasped once, twice, then went still. Cole walked behind the bar and looked down at the first name crossed off his list. No satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. 6 more to go. He reloaded the spent chamber, holstered his weapon, and walked back into the sunlight. Somewhere in town, a woman screamed. The killing had begun. The gunshot brought Redemption Creek to life like a kicked anthill. Within minutes, Deputy Silas Blackwood came running down Main Street, his hand on his gun, a crowd gathering behind him. Cole watched from the shadows of the alley beside the saloon, his face hidden beneath his hat brim. Silas burst through the saloon doors, then emerged moments later, his face twisted with rage. "Jesse's dead. Murdered." He spun toward the crowd. "Anyone see who came in here?" Silence. The townspeople exchanged nervous glances, but no one spoke. They knew better than to get involved in Blackwood business. Cole smiled grimly. Fear had its uses. He slipped away through the back alleys, making his way to the edge of town where the Blackwood Ranch sprawled across the valley. Victor had built an empire on stolen money and intimidation, a fortress of ill-gotten wealth. But empires could crumble. All it took was the right pressure in the right place. For 3 days, Cole waged a silent war. He burned Victor's northern pasture, stampeded his cattle, and sabotaged the water pump that fed his main house. He picked off ranch hands one by one, not killing them, just scaring them badly enough that they packed up and rode out. By the 4th day, half of Victor's crew had deserted. But Cole's real target wasn't the ranch. It was the men who'd been there that night. On the 5th day, he found Marcus Three-Fingered Gill at a brothel in the next town over. Marcus had been the one holding the horses while the others did the killing. Cole waited until Marcus stumbled out drunk at midnight, then stepped from the shadows. "Remember me?" Cole asked. Marcus's eyes went wide with terror. He clawed for his gun, but whiskey had made him slow. Cole's bullet found its mark, and Marcus fell face-first into the mud. 2 down. 5 to go. The next was easier. Tom Hardesty, the gang's safecracker, had fled to Denver after Jesse's death. But Cole tracked him to a gambling hall, cornered him in an alley, and delivered frontier justice with cold precision. 3 down. Word spread like wildfire. Cole Maddox was alive, and he was hunting the Blackwood Gang. Panic rippled through the criminal underworld. Men who'd ridden with Victor started looking over their shoulders, jumping at shadows, sleeping with guns under their pillows. But Victor himself remained defiant. He fortified his ranch, hired 20 new guns, and put a $5,000 bounty on Cole's head. "Let him come," Victor declared in the saloon, his voice loud and confident. "I killed him once. I'll kill him again." Cole heard about the bounty from Jacob. He simply checked his ammunition, sharpened his knife, and prepared for the endgame. The hunt was almost over. Soon, he'd face the Blackwood brothers, Silas and Victor, and the 3 remaining gang members. Soon, Sarah and Emma could rest. Soon, but not yet. The showdown came on a Sunday morning, when the church bells rang across Redemption Creek and honest folk gathered to pray. Cole chose the moment deliberately. He wanted witnesses. He wanted the town to see what happened when evil went unpunished. He rode down Main Street in broad daylight, his gray stallion's hooves echoing on the hard-packed dirt. The church emptied as people heard the sound, congregants spilling onto the street to watch the ghost rider come home. Women clutched their children. Men reached for weapons they weren't brave enough to draw. Victor Blackwood stood on the porch of his saloon, flanked by his remaining men, Deputy Silas, and the last 2 gang members, Dutch Keller and Ray Scarface Monroe. 20 hired guns spread out along the street, rifles ready, faces hard. "Cole Maddox." Victor's voice boomed across the silence. "You've caused me considerable trouble." Cole dismounted slowly, his spurs jingling with each step. "Not nearly enough. Not yet." "You killed 3 of my men," Victor continued, his hand resting on his pistol grip. "That's a hanging offense. As acting mayor, I'm placing you under arrest." "You're no mayor," Cole said coldly. "You're a murderer who bought a title. And I'm here to collect what's owed." Victor's smile was cruel. You're outnumbered 25-1, Maddox. You might be fast, but you ain't bulletproof. Surrender now, and I'll make it quick. Like you made it quick for Sarah?" Cole's voice cut like a blade. "For Emma." The name hung in the air. Silas shifted uncomfortably, his hand twitching toward his gun. Dutch and Scarface exchanged nervous glances. "They were in the way," Victor said simply. "Just like you." Cole's eyes blazed with cold fury. "Then come finish the job." For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then all hell broke loose. Cole's Colt cleared leather in a blur. His first shot took Dutch in the chest before the man could blink. His second dropped Scarface. Silas drew his weapon, but Cole was already moving, diving behind a water trough as bullets exploded around him. The hired guns opened fire, but they were shooting at shadows. Cole moved like smoke through the chaos, appearing and disappearing, each shot finding its mark. 1, 2, 3 guns fell silent. Then Jacob emerged from the stable with a shotgun, along with a dozen townsmen who'd finally found their courage. "Enough!" Jacob roared. "Blackwood's reign ends today." The tide turned. The hired guns, seeing the town rise against them, broke and ran. Within minutes, only Victor and Silas remained, backing toward the saloon. "This isn't over," Victor snarled. "Yes," Cole said, advancing with his Colt raised. "It is." The final shots rang out across Redemption Creek like the closing of a book, final and absolute. When the gunsmoke cleared, Victor and Silas Blackwood lay dead in the street, their blood soaking into the same dirt where they'd built their empire of fear. The town stood in stunned silence, unable to believe that the nightmare was finally over. Cole holstered his Colt with a weary sigh. 7 bullets. 7 graves. The debt was paid. But vengeance, he discovered, was a hollow victory. Standing over the bodies of his enemies, Cole felt no satisfaction, no peace. Sarah and Emma were still gone. The ranch was still ashes. All he'd accomplished was adding more ghosts to a world already haunted by too many. Jacob approached slowly, his shotgun lowered. "It's done, son. You can rest now." Cole shook his head. "There's no rest for men like me. I became the very thing I left behind." "You became what you had to become," Jacob said firmly. "You gave this town back its freedom. That counts for something." In the days that followed, Redemption Creek began to heal. A new sheriff was elected, an honest man named Tom Carter. The town council was reformed without Blackwood influence. The Silver Dollar Saloon was renamed and reopened under new management. Life, slowly, returned to normal. Cole stayed long enough to see it happen, helping where he could, testifying at the hearings that dismantled the Blackwood criminal network. But he knew he couldn't remain. There were too many memories, too many ghosts walking these streets. On a cool autumn morning, he rode out to the old Maddox ranch. The land had gone wild in 2 years, weeds overtaking the fields, the burned timbers of his home now gray with age. But in the small cemetery plot he'd made with Jacob's help, 2 wooden crosses still stood, weathered but unbroken. Cole knelt between them, his hat in his hands. "It's finished," he whispered. "They're all gone. Every last one." His voice cracked. "I wish that made it hurt less." He placed wildflowers on each grave, Sarah's favorite, the purple ones that grew by the creek. Then he stood, squared his shoulders, and walked back to his horse. The legend of Cole Maddox would live on in stories told around campfires, the ghost who rose from the grave to deliver justice, the fastest gun who brought down an empire. But the man himself would disappear into the vast frontier, riding toward a horizon that promised nothing but more dust and loneliness. Some said he headed to California. Others claimed they saw him in Montana, helping a widow defend her land from claim jumpers. A few swore he'd gone to Mexico, seeking the anonymity of a new life in a new land. But wherever Cole Maddox went, he carried 2 things with him always, his Colt .45 and the memory of what he'd lost. The gun for when the world demanded justice. The memories for when he needed to remember why. The end. Thank you for following Cole's journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Where did you watch this from? Drop your city and country in the comments.